Yay or Nay Show with Alex C. A sports show for sports fans by a sports fan. And now, here is Alex C.
All right, here we go. It is the Yay or Nay Show. This is the sports show for sports fans by a sports fan. A lot of things to talk about today. Number one, Odell Beckham getting signed by the LA Rams. Is it a big deal? Is it not a big deal? I actually have that question up on my Twitter page at Yay or Nay Podcast, the address to the Twitter page. Go and answer that. And speaking of the Twitter page, got quite a few of the questions that have come back. I told you I've been a little behind in regards to giving you the answers to the questions that I've been asking because there have been so many stories that have been coming out lately. But then again, you know, that is the nature of sports. There's always a new story. So let's get into some of the answers to some of the questions that I have recently brought out. Number one, do you think refs are determining the outcomes to games with bad calls? Now, this is a discussion we've had on several podcasts. I've told you I'm getting tired of watching games and watching momentum and watching outcomes of games get determined by refs, especially in the NFL. I really am not railing against NBA refs. I'm not railing against umpires in Major League Baseball. I am, however, railing against refs in the NFL. I do have a problem, again, with watching these games and watching teams that should not be winning win, and it is mostly in part of the bad calls that keep drives going that should not be kept going by taking them from a fourth down to a first down. And it's amazing how many times those penalties seem to come up, again, when a drive would be ending, but instead gets extended by a fictitious penalty or a very questionable call or a late call or something that they were talked into calling when they were never going to call it. Again, there's a lot of things that I have seen, and I could go on and on and on in regards to the types of calls that have determined outcomes of games that should never have. Look, refs should not be interjecting themselves into games. They should not be determining factors in regards to who win games. Bottom line, I don't think anybody would disagree with that. Well, again, I take that back. There's always going to be people that disagree. That's what makes, us different, which is fine. But I think the majority of people would agree with me. And by this poll, I'm pretty much right. Although I think this is probably a little off in regards to the percentages. But again, the question, do you think refs are determining outcomes to games with bad calls? This one, again, let me be clear, small sample size, but 100% of the people that voted said, yay, they do think the refs are determining outcomes to games with bad calls. Now, another one was Odell Beckham Jr. the problem in Cleveland. Again, I told you Keyshawn Johnson, Colin Cowherd. I mean, the list goes on and on and on and on in regards to all of these guys who have said, yay, Odell Beckham was, in fact, the problem in Cleveland. I have told you, okay, if you believe he's the problem in Cleveland, then how do you think going to another team is all of a sudden going to elevate another team? Again, showing you how they're, not necessarily making sense when they make the comments that they make, because again, it's hard for somebody to be a problem, but at the same time, somewhere else they're a fix. That doesn't make any sense. It holds no weight, and it definitely goes against your credibility. But the answer to the question came back. 58.3% of the people that voted said, nay, Odell Beckham was not the problem in Cleveland. And again, I've already told my thoughts on that in regards to a couple of podcasts that I've discussed this particular topic. Odell wasn't the problem. You didn't see Cleveland do great against Cincinnati because Odell Beckham, Mr. One target a game left. It's because they were going against Cincinnati, who, by the way, got blown up the week before by the lowly and previously winless New York Jets. So I don't think you're going to see that same level of play out of Cleveland when they played this week, but we'll discuss that here in a few minutes as we get into the upcoming matchups. All right, here's another one. Do you think Aaron Rodgers lied on purpose about being vaccinated? Now, we all know the story behind this, right? He's trying to say that you misunderstood what I said because they asked me if I was vaccinated, and I did say yes, but then I went on, and the word that I used was not vaccinated. So that is Aaron Rodgers' way of allegedly getting out of telling a lie, because he didn't use the word vaccinated. Okay. But the thing is, when they asked him if he was vaccinated, the first word that came out of his mouth was yes. And then he went on to expand his answer. And even though the word that he did not use was not vaccinated, I don't know how that doesn't come out to be a blatant lie. Again, and I've used this before, I've told you, that's like saying, did I have sex with that woman? No, I did not. And of course, I'm referring to, former President Bill Clinton. And then it turns out that he did. But because you didn't ask the specific question, he didn't think he was lying to you. Well, guess what? He was lying. Simple as 1, 2, 3. Just like Aaron Rodgers is lying. And again, according to this poll, looks like you agree with me. Because again, the question is, do you think Aaron Rodgers lied on purpose about being vaccinated? 85.7% of the people that voted said, yay, they do believe that Aaron Rodgers lied. Again, because really, I don't know. And there's always going to be disagreement, okay? There's no such answer in the world that is universal. But no doubt about it, Aaron Rodgers lied. Anybody who's saying that he didn't is either a Packers fan or an Aaron Rodgers homer. That's the only way I could see anybody defending Aaron Rodgers in regards to the fact that he lied about being vaccinated. And then the national media wants you to believe he didn't lie to you. He just misled. No, they're just kissing his butt because they don't want to lose him for interviews and they don't want to lose access to the Packers. That's all that's going on there, folks. You always got to look at the rhyme and the reason as to why people are feeding you the stories that they're feeding you. All right, here's another question. Should the NFL discipline the Packers for helping Aaron Rodgers lie about vaccination? Again, this was prior to the fines coming down because I said if there was going to be a fine, if there was going to be a penalty, it was not going to be severe. And guess what? I was right because the fines were a joke. It wasn't even a slap on the wrist to either the team or to Aaron Rodgers. But again, the question, should the NFL discipline the Packers for helping Aaron Rodgers lie about vaccinations? 100%, small sample, but 100% of the people that voted said, yay, they should in fact be fined. They were, but the fine was an absolute joke. All right, the other one. Should the NFL suspend Aaron Rodgers for lying about being vaccinated? This one came back 75% of the people that voted said, yay, Aaron Rodgers should be suspended for lying about being vaccinated. And again, I agree because this whole thing to me is amazing. He is the face of your franchise, right? The NFL claims to be social justice warriors. Allegedly, they're so all over every one of the things that's wrong with the world. The NFL's up front and right there. And yet they got a brand ambassador who is a liar, and they don't have a problem with that. But they got a problem with everything else in the world, but they just don't have a problem with one of their brand ambassadors being a downright liar about being vaccinated. And again, this goes back to you because it depends on how seriously you take COVID, how seriously you take people wearing masks, how seriously you take it that people get vaccinated. This is really up to you. My whole thing is, if you are one of the people that believes getting vaccinated is ultimately the most important thing in the world and everybody needs to do it, okay, then you are the people I'm speaking to that should be the most offended by Aaron Rodgers when he lies about being vaccinated, because he, in essence, was jeopardizing a whole lot of people by A, lying about being vaccinated, making people believe he was vaccinated. Therefore, he wore no masks. He didn't follow any of the NFL protocols. And by the way, all the other players have to follow the NFL protocols, but Aaron Rodgers doesn't seem to have to because he seems to be above the rules. He seems to be above COVID itself. So it's amazing. Again, and you have the NFL, right, trying to tell you how seriously they take it and how they have these protocols in place and they're going to suspend people or make it to where they can't do and participate in certain things if they're not vaccinated. Yet Aaron Rodgers has participated in everything. He hasn't had any kind of hold back at all. Matter of fact, and now he still isn't vaccinated. And I would make the argument he still isn't being held out of all the things that unvaccinated players are not supposed to be. Basically, what's the word I'm looking for? He still is participating in all the things he's not supposed to be allowed to participate in. Because again, there's protocol in place. The NFL has all this protocol in place about what practices you can and cannot do, what meetings you can and cannot attend, meals, can you have them with players, traveling, how do you travel, what about your hotel rooms? I believe you have to stay in your hotel rooms. You're not allowed to leave the hotel room if you're not vaccinated. You can only go to the stadium, and there's all these types of protocols that are in place. However, the funny thing is Aaron Rodgers has not done any of those things, and the NFL, again, claims to be all in on keeping everybody safe, seems to be all in on COVID-19 being a priority. And again, but when it comes to Aaron Rodgers, a brand ambassador, they don't seem to have a problem with the brand ambassador not participating in the COVID-19 protocols. Isn't that amazing? Isn't it amazing how hypocritical the NFL is? I'm telling you, they're full of poop. I mean, there's other language I would use, but, I'm trying to keep it clean. But it's amazing to me. Absolutely amazing to me. You got a brand ambassador who outright lied and the NFL does nothing. But yet other players have to follow the protocol. Aaron Rodgers, again, I'll make the argument and I'll bet $100 I'm right. He still isn't following the protocol. He's not going to follow it if it comes back on Saturday. He's not going to follow it on game day on Sunday. And he's not going to follow it moving forward because he's Aaron Rodgers and the Packers aren't going to enforce it. And the NFL's not going to make him do anything. And if all you're getting is a lousy $14,000 fine for somebody who makes $35 million a year, pretty sure you're not really worried about whether you get caught or not a second time. And they're talking about there would be stiffer penalties if something happens again. Pretty sure he's going to do the minimal to make people believe he's following the protocol. Like when he does a press conference, he'll wear a mask. It's probably all he's going to do. It's probably the only thing he's going to do. Everything else is going to be exactly the same for Aaron Rodgers. He's still going to eat with the players, travel with the players, leave his hotel room when he wants to, go to parties like he did on Halloween. He went to a costume party, again, violating NFL protocol. But again, it's the brand ambassador. They don't have a problem with it. And all of the four-letter network commentators and national sports analysts don't have a problem with it because, again, they all want to kiss Aaron Rodgers' butt because they're afraid of Aaron Rodgers because they think Aaron Rodgers will stop talking to them. So what? Who cares? You're just here to report on the games and how he does and how he looks anyways. You really that worried about whether you get to do an actual interview with Aaron Rodgers? He's just one player out of many. Granted, he's a good one. Obviously, he'll be, going down in history as one of the great quarterbacks. But when you look at all the things that are wrong with Aaron Rodgers, because this is just one of many things, it ain't going to be that big of a deal if you lose access to Aaron Rodgers. Sorry, folks. So again, the question, should the NFL discipline the Packers for helping Aaron Rodgers lie about vaccination? 100% of the people voted yay, all right? And just going over the other question, do you think Aaron Rodgers lied on purpose about being vaccinated? 85.7% of the people said yay. Then the following question, the one that I was at when I started this conversation, should the NFL suspend Aaron Rodgers for should the NFL discipline the Packers for helping Aaron Rodgers lie about vaccination? 100% of the people, yay. So again, those are just three. And now here's the fourth, which is should the NFL suspend Aaron Rodgers for lying about vaccination? 75% of the people said yay. It's amazing. I'm telling you, every time you bring up Aaron Rodgers, there does not seem to be a very positive outlook on him. So why the national media is so worried about kissing his butt is actually a huge mystery to me. I don't get it. But again, I'm sure they got their reasons. If losing the locker room or losing access to Aaron Rodgers is it, I don't know why that's a big deal. Okay, so we all know that there was a game last night, Thursday Night Football, Ravens-Dolphins. Yesterday, before I wrapped up the show, I told you that I would bet the house on the Ravens. So obviously, I made a lot of people lose a lot of money because the Ravens just looked bad. Look, I don't know what's going on. This year's kind of interesting. So you got college football, again, is pretty much what college football is supposed to be. You have 4 elite teams, and then you have Category B, which is the people that are trying to become one of the 4 elite teams. You got Category C, which is all the teams that don't have a player, don't have a chance. They're trying to figure out if they have to get a new coach, a new general manager. What moves do they have to make to be more competitive next year? Okay, so that's the way the categories work. In the NFL, I said it works just like college. You have 4 elite teams. You got Package B, which is the teams trying to be part of the 4 elite teams. And then you got package C, which is the teams that know it's done, it's over. Do I got to make a coaching change? Do I got to make a roster move? What roster moves do I need? Who's going to be my quarterback? So you have all these things that transpire in regards to package C. But again, here's the thing about the NFL, which apparently is mimicking the NCAA, which is there doesn't seem to really be an Elite Four, because I can't make an excuse for the Ravens. So let's start with, I said my Elite Four was the Titans, which I barely added to the Elite Four. I had the Ravens, right? Cardinals, and then the Rams, my Elite Four. Now, I know that the Rams lost, right? It's okay, because you're going to lose a game or two. There's nothing wrong with that. My thing is when you lose, though, you shouldn't lose games that you're not supposed to lose. When you have a team that you're supposed to manhandle, you got to take care of your business, and you got to manhandle those teams, which is why, even though the national media wants you to believe that the Cowboys are one of the best teams in the NFL, no, they're not. A, they haven't beat anybody who's going to the playoffs, and B, they just got manhandled by the Broncos, a team that they should have been manhandling. So you cannot tell me that that is an elite team. Same thing with Tampa Bay. They haven't beat anybody with a playoff caliber resume. So don't tell me how they're the best. And last year was a fluke because, again, there was no such thing as home field advantage. You had players that opted out for COVID, and a lot of them were stars. And again, you had no fans in the stands. That was a fluke of a year. All the games were nothing but glorified practices. That's all NFL games were last year. Glorified practices. The guys having fun, jawing at each other. It looked like scrimmages. That's all it was. None of the games were really that good. It wasn't good action last year. I had a hard time watching it. I didn't watch most games in the NFL last year. It was too difficult to watch. So Buccaneers, even though the NFL national guys want you to believe that the Buccaneers are one of the top teams in the NFL, no, they're not. They're not going to be repeat champions like they're saying. Same thing with Kansas City. They're still trying to feed you the garbage that Kansas City is a team to watch out for. No, they're only still in it because their division is horrible. If it wasn't for the fact that the Chiefs were in a bad division, they wouldn't have a prayer. But the only reason why these guys are getting any ounce of credibility is because they continue to try and tell you, oh, never count on Patrick Mahomes. If you're watching Patrick Mahomes, if you're watching the Chiefs, count them out. They have no prayer going to the Super Bowl. I have no problem saying it. National media guys, once again, are behind me. They'll eventually catch up when they figure it out, learn, maybe actually watch a football game. I don't know if these national media guys actually watch football. Maybe they just watch highlights. But they definitely go too much off of people's resumes. What somebody's done in the past is apparently what they're supposed to continue to be able to do in the future. And it just does not work that way. But again, they haven't figured it out yet. So for them to tell you that the Chiefs are a team to watch out for, they're just in a bad division. That's all that is. All right, let's talk about the upcoming game. So again, Ravens look bad. I have to take them out of the top four. And if we're going to talk about the top four, I can tell you this. There are only a couple of teams to discuss about being in the top in the NFL right now. And one of them hurts me to say because I cannot stand this team, and I'm a 49ers fan. We all know that. Arizona Cardinals. Even though national media guys want to downplay the Cardinals and that they act like they love them, they'll tell you they love them, but then when it comes to their rankings, they tell you how they love their beloved Cowboys, and they love their beloved Chiefs, and they love their beloved Buccaneers. And those are the three teams that are the top three and the best in the NFL, and anybody who says different's wrong. When actually it's them who's wrong. And once again, I will be right. And again, I will be proven right at the end of the season, guaranteed. But the bottom line is Cardinals, Titans, and then there's everybody else. It's really that simple. Cardinals, Titans, and then there's everybody else. It's like you got Pac B has grown by a couple of teams because there is no number 3. There is no number 4. Ravens have to get knocked out of it. That game was unexcusable last night. I know they want to make a bunch of excuses for the Ravens. Short week. So what? It was a short week for the Dolphins too. Not only was it a short week for the Dolphins, it was a short week for one of the worst teams in the NFL in the Miami Dolphins. And yet Miami beat the what is supposed to be superior team in the Ravens. That's unexcusable. Should never happen. Lamar Jackson looked bad. And you know what? Of course, a quarterback every now and then is going to have a bad game. But the team fell apart. The coaching looked bad. The play calling was bad. The execution was bad. I'm not putting it all on the coaching, but you could clearly see that the whole scheme, the plan, everything that was going on was just bad. And when you look at it at the end, you know what? They were never in the game. So the excuses that the national media guys want to tell you, oh, it's the overtime game they played against Minnesota. No. They were playing against the Dolphins. Shouldn't have mattered. Short week, shouldn't have mattered. Short week on top of the overtime game, shouldn't matter. Just means you take an extra day off of practice. Do walkthroughs instead of putting pads on. And then you come in on Thursday and you play the game against one of the worst teams in the NFL in the Miami Dolphins. And there's no excuse for losing. Sorry. So I have to knock the Ravens out. So there's really only two top teams in the top tier: Cardinals, Titans. Then you got, package B, the people trying to be in the top two. You got package C, the people that know it's done, it's over. They got to figure out whether they got to make roster changes, quarterback changes, general manager changes, coaching changes. They got to figure out what they got to do to be competitive next year because it's over. All right, so let's go over some of the upcoming games for Sunday then. So we know Ravens got their butts kicked by the Dolphins. That was an embarrassment. Titans and the Saints. Again, I put the Titans in the top two. I believe they are one of the top two right now in the NFL, even without Derrick Henry, which is the surprise, by the way, because Derrick Henry, to me, the Titans went with Derrick Henry. They could only go as far as Derrick Henry could take them. But what the team has shown me is that they have actually become an actual team. They're well coached. They're well prepared. And they actually will take what the defense gives them and work around from there as far as getting the big plays when they don't have a big home run hitter like Derrick Henry. They play good. They play well. Their defense is getting better. As a matter of fact, this is probably the only team that has a defense that's actually playing defense. It really is that simple. This is probably the only team that has a defense that's actually playing defense. Tennessee Titans. They're going to beat the Saints on Sunday. Bills and the Jets. Well, the Bills got embarrassed by Jacksonville. Now, the Jets are going to have Mike White starting. That's going to be a huge advantage. That is going to propel the Jets in regards to what they have the ability to do and how good they're going to play. That's going to make them way more competitive than what they've been in weeks past. I think Mike White's the way to go, not only for the rest of the season, but for the future of the Jets right now at the moment, unless they somehow can get a blockbuster trade for somebody who's really good, which is obviously very difficult to do. So when I look at this game, and again, I'm not a fan of the Bills, and the national media guys try to tell you how great this defense is, and no, it's not. The Bills are not that good. And by the way, they haven't really beat anybody with a playoff resume either yet this year. And again, they got blown up by lowly Jacksonville last week. That's an embarrassment. Now, the thing is I don't think they're going to look to get embarrassed 2 weeks in a row. It is the Jets. Yes, there's Mike White. I think this is going to be competitive. I think the Jets lead all the way up until the fourth quarter, maybe late third quarter, and then the Bills take over and win. So I think this one's going to be not really high scoring, really middle of the road, 23-17 maybe, probably be my guesstimate. Bills over the Jets. But it's going to be a lot more competitive than people would imagine because, again, the Jets are better with Mike White under center. The Bills aren't that good to begin with. They're a middle-of-the-road team, overhyped, over-talked about, overanalyzed. National media starting to figure it out, starting to understand that I am right, and they are starting to come on board with the Bills being overhyped. However, they still every now and then try to throw a one-liner in about don't count the Bills out because, again, they don't want to lose their credibility. But no, the Bills aren't anybody to watch for the Super Bowl either. There's no doubt about that. Lions and the Steelers. So every dog has their day. I know I predicted this a couple of weeks ago that, the Lions were going to pick up their first victory, and I thought it was going to happen. Just like, I knew eventually the Jets were going to victory. I didn't think the Jets were going to get it against who they got it against, and I didn't think Jacksonville's going to win against who they won against, but everybody's going to get a victory sooner or later. I think, again, and I'm for a second time for the Detroit Lions, I'm saying it, I think if there's an upset special, that this is the one for the week, and this is the week for the Lions. I think the Lions can beat the Steelers. Again, Ben Roethlisberger, let's be honest, folks, he should have retired 7-8 years ago. That Steelers offensive line is nothing to write home about. Everybody wants to brag about that defense. I don't see a defense that's overwhelming. I don't know what the national media guys are seeing. Again, the only team that's playing defense that I see is the Titans. And I know they like to talk up the Cardinal defense, but I don't see anything special in the Cardinal defense. Matter of fact, I saw San Francisco run all over them. The only thing I saw was San Francisco shoot themselves in the foot, and that's the only reason why their drives got stalled last week. So when you look at this defense for the Steelers, are they anything to write home about or be fearful of? No. And we all know the Lions can put points on the board. We all know that they fight hard. We all know they believe in their coach. They believe in their system. Again, if there's an upset special for this week, I'm going to say this would be the week for the Lions. Jaguars and the Colts, I don't think there'll be any surprises here. Colts over the Jaguars. Buccaneers over Washington. Again, this should be a cakewalk. But here's the thing before I get into the next game. I know I said the Bucs over Washington should be a cakewalk. What I was alluding to earlier when I said the NFL is a lot like the NCAA this year is the NCAA has been unpredictable. And you have teams beating teams and in ways that shouldn't happen. You have teams beating teams that should never happen. There's always an upset, right? That's just the way it works. But there are way too many upsets in the NCAA. And there's a lot of reasons why that may be happening, transfer portal and things of that nature that may be attributing to a lot of the upsets that are taking place. So there's a lot of stuff that, people are going to have to figure out. And again, transfer portal might have a lot to do with it. But the NFL is also having the same kind of issue where you have teams losing games that they shouldn't lose. So even though I'm saying the Bucs should have a cakewalk over Washington, I mean, who knows? Because again, I'm not a big fan of the Bucs to begin with, and Washington has to have their day where they look like a stellar NFL team at some point. And I don't think they've had their game, their due yet. This could be that game. And the reason why I'm saying that is because last week, was a crazy week, right? For teams losing games that they shouldn't have lost. And then last night kind of really solidified that we're in that mode right now when you have the Ravens getting their butts kicked by Miami. So I'm just saying, if Washington somehow beats Tampa Bay, I won't necessarily be surprised. It shouldn't happen. Bucs should walk all over them. But if Washington beats the Bucs, I wouldn't be that surprised. Browns and the Patriots. All right, so here we go. This is the one where I was talking about earlier. I was going to talk a little bit about it because everybody in the national media went all in and saying, yay, Odell Beckham was the problem in Cleveland, and as soon as he leaves, Cleveland beats Cincinnati. Again, you're bragging about a team that beat a team on the downfall. Cleveland beat Cincinnati, and Cincinnati is on a slide. They are on a downward slide. They just got their butts kicked all over the place by the New York Jets, and then they get their butts kicked by the Browns. Well, obviously, if you went and you got your butts kicked, and you allowed the New York Jets, the lowly, winless New York Jets, to score 44 points on you and kick your tail, you're going to go in against the Browns with a healthy Browns team, right, where all their defenders came back, Nick Chubb came back, they ran all over them, and they kicked their butt, and they should have. However, that doesn't mean that Baker Mayfield all of a sudden is, a stellar quarterback, and all of a sudden that you have a stellar offense, and all of a sudden all the questions have been answered now that Odell Beckham Jr. is gone, because you're going to find out on Sunday against the Patriots, a team who's on the upswing, by the way, with arguably the best quarterback, the best quarterback coach as well as the best head coach in the NFL in, what's his name? Bill Belichick. I think that's what his name is. Yeah, Bill Belichick. So, obviously I knew his name. I'm just saying that. Bill Belichick is going to be prepared for the Browns. He's going to have that defense prepared for the Browns. Bill Belichick is what? Not just a quarterback coach, not just one of the best head coaches in the NFL. Oh, he's also a defensive guru. That's where he makes his money. So he's going to have the Patriot defense ready. And even though he's got a no-name defense, he's going to have the Patriot defense ready for the Cleveland Browns. And then you're going to see how ineffective Baker Mayfield actually is, even though the national media is trying to tell you, oh, don't worry about Baker. He's great. He's good. Now that Odell Beckham isn't there, he's ready to go, and he's going to make it happen. If you watch last week's game, you could see he didn't. What did he go? 14 for 21? That's not a lot of throws. That shows you they didn't have a lot for Baker to do. So if the offense is going to be all about Baker not doing too much and him just being one of those quarterbacks where you just don't ask him to do a lot and his whole job is just not to mess up the offense or the game plan, then maybe Baker can fulfill your dreams. Because I hear the national media guys always saying that about quarterbacks they don't like. Oh, matter of fact, they say that about the very quarterback that Baker Mayfield's going to be going up against. They say that his job is just not to mess up the offense. They don't ask him to do too much. He doesn't have any downfield throws. Everything's going to be dink and dunk, and they just need him to be a game manager. That's what they say about mac and cheese. So I think, first and foremost, if you talk about quarterbacks, mac and cheese, Baker Mayfield, which one's better? I'm going to go with mac and cheese. If you talk about coaching staff, Browns and Patriots, you're going to say which one's better? I'm going to go with the New England Patriots. Can you see how the scale's tipping here? That means we're probably going to see a Patriots victory over the Browns, even though the national media guys don't want you to believe that, don't want you to think that, and they want you to believe that Baker Mayfield is a arriving quarterback and that he is here to stay and he deserves an extension and they need to be looking at $200 million instead of $140 million. Personally, I think if you give him an extension, you need to wait another year and let's see what he does next year because there's no reason to rush. But with that being said, you're going to find out how limited Baker Mayfield is when he goes up against this Patriot defense. And you're going to find out how limited that offense is because they're not going to have Nick Chubb because Nick Chubb is the offense. Without that run game, without Nick Chubb's run game, the Browns are an ineffective offense because you can't put the offense on Baker Mayfield's shoulders because Baker Mayfield is not that kind of a quarterback. He's not that good. He's not that strong. And by the way, just in case you haven't been paying attention, national media guys, when they're behind, they can't play from behind. They can only play with the lead. When they're behind and they become one-dimensional and you know the Cleveland Browns have to throw the ball, it's amazing how ineffective Cleveland's offense becomes and how they're not able to move the ball. So again, out of all the factors that I just listed, none of those tell you that Baker Mayfield is an arriving quarterback, is anyone who deserves a huge extension, let alone to be one of the top paid quarterbacks in the NFL, if not the top paid quarterback in the NFL. There's no reason to have that discussion. And you're going to see how limited Baker Mayfield is on Sunday against the Patriots. And I am actually going to make sure I watch that game because I wholeheartedly believe what I'm saying. And I was laughing when the national media guys, Keyshawn Johnson and all these guys were talking about the Browns and Jay Will and how great the Browns are and how they are a great offense now that Odell Beckham's gone and they have no problems. And now that the problem in Odell Beckham is gone, they're ready to go. And no, they looked good against a team who got beat up by the Jets. And then they got beat up by Browns, as they should have, because if you're a halfway decent team, you should beat Cincinnati right now because they're on the downslide. Next game, Falcons, Cowboys. Falcons, I believe they're like, 4-4? Their record's 4-4, right? Cowboys just got beat up by the Broncos. I'm giving the Falcons a chance on this game. I really am. You don't know who the Falcons are week to week. You know, I said that, and I've been saying that, and I've been consistent with that since the offseason before we even got into week one. I have said, we just don't know who the Falcons are. We don't. It's a team that and a coaching staff that you just don't know who they are. So I just don't know what you're going to get week to week when it comes to the Falcons. But however, the Cowboys, again, they're not one of the elite teams in the NFL. And I believe the Falcons have a really good chance at winning this game. The defense for the Cowboys is weak. If you put the run game on them and you stick with the run and you're a run-first team, that it gives you a higher probability of success against that weak Cowboys defense. They're a weak secondary as well. You can throw on them, but I suggest run first, have success running the ball. It'll open up the passing game. You got Matt Ryan as a quarterback. That's a big plus. You got Matt Ryan. You got Dak Prescott. Which quarterback's better? In all honesty, I think they're evenly matched. I don't think one is over the other. I think Matt Ryan and Dak Prescott are two evenly matched quarterbacks, and I think that the Falcons have the ability to win this game. I am picking the Falcons to beat the Cowboys. I really am. I know there's a lot of people that are talking about the Cowboys. Oh, one of the top teams. They're going to the Super Bowl. It's going to be between them and the Buccaneers. It's amazing how they forget about the Cardinals. They forget about how great the Cardinals are playing, and they just want to immediately talk about the Cowboys. They immediately want to talk about the Buccaneers. And again, and I'm not a Cardinals fan, and it pains me to say that about the Cardinals, but they are easily the best team in the NFC right now. But the national media guys want you to believe it's the Cowboys or it's the Buccaneers. Again, I don't know if the NFL tells them to feed you on the Cowboys every year or if it's their networks that tell you to feed you on the Cowboys every year, but they look stupid. They've been saying it for 25 years and they haven't been right yet. All right. Panthers, speaking of the Cardinals and the Cardinals, here's an interesting one. Cam Newton signed with the Panthers. I don't know if he's playing on Sunday. I haven't been able to pay that much attention in regards to whether he's going to be the starting QB1 on Sunday. If he is, it's going to be too soon. He's not going to know enough of the playbook. And I don't know how effective he's going to be. I do know Christian McCaffrey is going to be back. That's a big plus. That's going to hurt the Cardinals. The Cardinals cannot stop the run, and they cannot stop an elite runner like Christian McCaffrey. So I believe the Panthers are going to be able to get some movement on him. We've been watching teams that are in the top tier fall, and I think the Panthers will beat the Cardinals. I think they're going to beat the Cardinals. I think it's going to be close. I think there's going to be a lot of game management. And if Cam Newton is a starting quarterback, and I believe he is going to be the starting quarterback, again, one of the problems they'll have is limited knowledge of the playbook. But I think with the addition of Christian McCaffrey, the fact that Christian McCaffrey is the captain of the team, and he's what makes the offense go anyways, he gets like 60% of the touches. So if they just move forward with the run-first program they've always run, and Christian McCaffrey is actually healthy, and Cam can do just enough, I think the Panthers can give the Cardinals a run for their money, and I think the Panthers can actually win that game. Not because they're better than the Cardinals, but we are watching top-tier teams fall, and it's probably time for the Cardinals to fall, and it just happens to be at a time where there's a lot of hype behind Cam going back and playing as a starting quarterback for the Panthers right now while Sam Darnold's down. So, again, slight advantage, Panthers over the Cardinals. Vikings and the Chargers, I think you got to give the advantage to the Vikings. I think they're more stable. The Chargers seem to be kind of falling apart and sliding, and the Vikings are just fighting week in and week out. They find ways to lose games as well as find way to win the games. I just think this is going to be a week where they find a way to win a game, and especially since they just lost a rough one against the Ravens, I think the Vikings are going to beat the Chargers. It'll be close, but I think the Vikings win. Seahawks and the Packers, it's all about whether Aaron Rodgers actually plays or not. If Aaron Rodgers plays, Packers win. If Aaron Rodgers does not play, advantage Russell Wilson and the Seahawks win. That's really how that game's going to go, because it's really that simple to me. Eagles and the Broncos, I'm going to take the Eagles over the Broncos. They're a team on the uptick. They've been on the uptick for the last 3 or 4 weeks, especially since they found their run game, and now they're becoming a run-first team, and it seems to be helping out Jalen a lot. So I'm going to give the advantage to the Eagles in this game, Eagles over the Broncos. I think it's going to be a low-scoring affair, but again, Eagles over the Broncos. Chiefs and the Raiders, this is hilarious to me. Again, these guys on the national media side want to tell you how the Chiefs are the better team. Be on a watch out for them. Again, we're looking for them to make another deep run. They're going to flip the switch. They're going to turn it on, and they're going to go. No, they're not. They're garbage. Patrick Mahomes, you paid him money. You gave him a big contract. Every time you give a quarterback a big contract, they fall apart. Now you got Patrick Mahomes more worried about making commercials than he is playing football. He is spending probably, it looks to me, and again, I'm on the outside looking in, but it looks to me like he's spending more time worrying about making commercials than he is about practicing. And it shows on the field. I think the Raiders beat the Chiefs. I think the Raiders lost last week because they had a lot of outside distractions for all the obvious reasons, car accident, somebody passing away. So look, the Raiders didn't lose last week's game because they're a slipping and sliding team. They lost last week's game because they're on a outside noise headache program. I mean, basically, the problem is you got all this outside noise because of all the things that are going on with their team. They better release a couple, not just one, but 2 players. All right, they had 2 players had to release. You had another one, again, brandishing a weapon. They had to release him. So they've had outside distractions. I believe it took its toll on them on Sunday. But just like when they had to get rid of Gruden, it took them 1 week to bounce back. We're at the 1-week threshold now. I believe the Raiders bounce back, and I believe they bounce back big by beating the Chiefs. Rams and the 49ers, I think it's going to be more competitive than most people believe. 49ers are getting healthy. The running back room is finally getting healthy. So when you get the run game going and you put, a healthy 49ers team against a healthy Rams team, Odell Beckham is not going to make a difference, by the way, folks. Again, he didn't make a difference in Cleveland. He's not going to make a difference in the Rams. Rams were already winning before Odell Beckham. If they continue to win, it's going to have nothing to do with Odell Beckham. He's not going to be big. He's not going to be big on catches. He's not going to be big on targets. He's not going to be big on yards. He is not going to be a major portion of the Rams offense. National media guys want you to believe that that's what's going to happen. No, it's not. He's not going to be big target-wise. He's not going to be very effective yard reception-wise. He's not going to be big on yard after the catch. He's just not. Maybe he'll have one highlight play, and everybody will try and focus on that one play and say, see, I told you, Odell Beckham, look at him go, look at him. They always do that. But if you look at the entire game and you actually watch the entire game, you'll see Odell is not going to be a big factor. He's not going to be a big factor at all for the Rams. I don't even know if he's going to play this Sunday. Whether he does, whether he doesn't matter in the future. If he doesn't play this Sunday again, Odell Beckham is not going to be a big factor in this game or in the Rams' run to the playoffs. He's just not going to be a big factor. I think they wasted money, brought a lot of hype, but I don't think it's going to be a big deal. But the Rams will beat the 49ers. Again, 49ers on an upswing, even though they've got bad coaching and they got a coach in Kyle Shanahan who needs to be fired. The 49ers are outplaying the bad coaching, but they're not going to be able to outplay it enough to beat a caliber team like the Rams. There's just no way. So it's not going to happen. All right, so that's going to do it for today's podcast. You guys enjoy all the college action, all the NFL Sunday action. We will talk about it all on Monday and, of course, preview the Monday night games. You guys have a great weekend.